Hello everyone and welcome on back to the channel. So yesterday I made my video going over the patch that was released on August 2nd, and in that video I actually was ruminating around the idea of Chronomancer Healer. Now in today's video we're here to answer the age-old question, the question that nobody asked except for myself, which is, what if Chronomancer was a healer? Now, when looking at the Mesmer profession, it has, of course, 3 elite specializations: the Chronomancer, the Mirage, and the Virtuoso. I would say that the majority of the roles that Mesmer has access to is really just damage. For Chronomancer, it has boon application, but ultimately you're still trying to reach that high damage number. The same could be said for Mirage. Mirage is mostly damage, and Virtuoso was its newest elite specialization that continues to focus on damage. Now, of course, with the balanced direction the game is going in, where they want to split the boons, I had mentioned, what if Chronomancer was the elite spec for Mesmer that had its domain being Alacrity, and perhaps Mirage and Virtuoso could have some extra applications of quickness to allow more role diversity and elite specialization diversity. With that groundwork covered, I want to talk a little bit about what I've worked on today, where I have kind of revamped Chronomancer to be more of a pure healer that provides Alacrity. Now, let's head on into it. So I made this whole entire sheet mock-up. So essentially, Chronomancer. I'm laying the foundations with focus on boon separation and a lack of a healing spec for Mesmer. This rework is positioning the Chrono as more of that healer, which is something that is really missing from Mesmer. Of course, we think about bards and stuff, but we don't know if we're ever going to get a bard for Mesmer, so let's just try to position Chrono in a little bit more of a differentiated way. Of course, I got the inspiration from that time-mage healer comment in the other video, and then my friends in Discord were all saying like common adages and sayings like time heals all wounds. So we have in the bottom right my 2 roles that I was kind of seeking. Major role being healing, and the minor role for Chronomancer being that tank. Many times in raids, with tanking being more of a present mechanic, Chronomancers used to and still are able to be that upfront tank, shielding themselves and doing all that. So let's go into my first couple of changes, this being the actual shatters for the Chronomancer. Now, positioning the Chronomancer in more of that healer, we have to give it some more direct healing and support in the ways of barrier, healing, and even some boon application. With the addition of allied targeting features with the Spectre and End of Dragons, we haven't seen any more of that go onto other professions. I think that allied targeting is, in a way, a more fulfilling version of healing because it's something where you have more direct agency over. It adds another layer of thought process and strategy with needing to know who you're healing, and it also allows you to have stronger heals. So we have split second. Usually, I've kept all the damaging features of the shatters pretty much the same, but we have split second. The ally targeting feature would just be your very straight up healing. Rush your clones to an ally, shattering them to heal them, also granting them alacrity per clone. Of course, the more clones that you shatter, the more effects, so the more healing and the more alacrity duration. 9 seconds of alacrity total, I think would be pretty nice, and something that could be upkept pretty well. Next, we have Rewinder. This is your one application of a allied target heal, but it's also an area of effect heal. So rush your clones to an ally, shattering them to heal allies in the area around your ally. Recharge this skill for each clone shattered. This has a little bit less healing than the single target one, of course, because you are in a world where it is affecting more than one target, but I think it'd be cool to still have that area of effect application, but instead of just like placing a reticle and an AoE target circle, it's positioned around the ally that you are choosing to target. And the next, time sync. Time sync, I think of more of that bruisery disruptor and The opposite of the disrupting stun lock playstyle in my mind is oftentimes a defensive bolstering of allies. So for time sink, it's a different method of support. Rush your clones to an ally, shattering them, granting barrier, and converting conditions into boons. More clones shattered, the more barrier. Shattering 3 clones onto an ally will convert 3 of their conditions into boons. So a little bit of a stronger ability here. Of course, it being on a 38-second cooldown, you want to think of that. So yeah, a little bit more ally targeting features, and there's other traits within Mesmer that allow you to get 2 charges of your F1, the reduction of the shatters themselves. So for the shield, we have Tides of Time. They have changed this in the current live game to provide might and swiftness. They got rid of the quickness and the alacrity. Now, if they want to differentiate the boons and have a little bit more cohesiveness, I think that you could bring alacrity back to Tides of Time for the Chronomancer. With this ability, I have kind of tweaked it. You're going to grant boons to nearby allies when you use this skill. Then you're going to launch a wave of energy that damages and briefly stuns a target. But allies that are in the path of the wall are also healed. Because I'm trying to loop Chronomancer into more of that direct healer, I wanted to provide a little bit extra support features for the actual wall itself. It used to be where you had to aim the wall. Still implementing a skill shot, something you have to aim to heal allies, could be something that is still exciting and brings that little edge to this spell without losing its original fantasy. Next, we have Well of Recall. This is currently called Well of Senility. I don't really think it needs, is a weird name. I revert to Well of Recall, and I've transformed this back into your Alacrity Well, your main Alacrity Well, and adding a little bit more healing to it as well. So this creates a well that steals memories from foes, damaging and chilling them. When the well ends, any allies inside gain Alacrity and the unique Recall buff, healing them over time. This would be something that is different than regeneration. This would be a unique buff that would be applied that would heal a target over time. Once again, the concept of time healing wounds. Over the course of battle, you receive healing. It's more of a healing over time fantasy rather than a big burst healer. And then we have Well of Precognition. I prefer to see Barrier rather than Aegis because Aegis, it's either a really weak boon or a really strong boon. So in terms of consistency and allowing you to feel like it is a little bit stronger, Barrier itself could allow you to take more hits where you are able to survive maybe a stronger hit. But in the case of Aegis, if you get hit by like a minion that does 100 damage, that Aegis is gone. So that's why I kind of appreciate Barrier a little bit more. So I've adapted Well of Precognition to grant Barrier rather than Aegis. So create a well that gives allies the ability to see the future, granting them Barrier and stability. When the well ends, allies within the well regain endurance. Now let's get into the traits. These traits I'm actually pretty fond of, what I've kind of thought about. Of course, it would be normal for people to be excited about what they are, making and stuff. So I would hope that anybody would be excited about their own ideas. And I am very much in favor of these as well. You might notice that some of the icons are repositioned. That's purely just because of the icon fantasy and the name of the trait better matching the icon. I just kind of wanted to go with that. But let's talk about the minors first. We have Flow of Time. Currently, this just gives you self-alacrity when you shatter. I've added a little bit extra to it to further push the Chronomancer into that main healer role. So Alacrity also will give you healing power in this rework. This would be 150 healing power, maybe 200 healing power. Nothing super grand, but a little bit extra. Now let's talk about the adepts themselves. First up, we have Delayed Aggression. I really wanted to play into the 2 roles with Chronomancer changes. So most of these traits will be more support focused. However, the top line, because some players will be a Chronomancer tank, I thought we'd have a little bit of extra role flexibility with that tank role. So this top line is more so with the bruiser tank idea. So we have Delayed Aggression. Gain toughness while wielding a shield. Further incentivizing shield if you're a tank. Taunt foes you slow. Of course, PvP in World vs. World, this would not be taunt, that would be very powerful, and would instead be weakness, probably for 3 or 2 seconds or something like that. But because this is mostly a PvE rework, I wanted to really just emphasize this. This would be good for ad management if you're playing with a few of your friends and you really want to play that tank role, or you're doing dungeons or fractals or whatnot. I think that we need more taunt in Guild Wars 2's PvE game. Next up, we have Time Catches Up. I did change the icon of this. This is originally the icon for improved alacrity, but if we're looking at the icons, the feet and the running makes more sense for Time Catches Up. Nevertheless, this is similar. Activating a shatter skill gives your illusion super speed. However, I wanted to add to this because of the updates that I did to the shatters where I gave them ally targeting features. So instead of just damage increases, they also hit the supportive elements. Shatters have an increased potency depending on your target. So enemy targets, 10% extra damage, ally healing, 10% extra healing, and with the one applying barrier, 10% increased barrier. Next up, all's well that ends well. Wells heal allies when they end for a lesser amount and grant alacrity. Of course, I try to subscribe to the philosophy of area of effect healing might deserve to be a little bit weaker, while single target healing and support ability should be a little bit stronger. So that's why I've kind of nerfed it, and I've really bumped up the alacrity for this. I actually think 7 seconds baseline might be a little too strong, maybe like 6 or 5 seconds. But next we have Danger Time. I'm actually taking inspiration from a current change that they've implemented to improved alacrity. I just disagree with where they put it, so I've instead put it on Danger Time, once again emphasizing that more aggressive tank bruiser playstyle. So Danger Time. Gain additional critical hit chance, which is the same, and damage, which is new, against slowed enemies. This bonus also applies to your illusions. I think the critical hit damage increase, which was recently applied to the bottom one in this, which was called Improved Alacrity, is probably more fitting of it being on Danger Time, because then not only are you gaining increased crit damage, but so are your illusions. Once again, the top line being a bit more bruiser focused, you're getting some of that defensive capabilities and some of that offensive capabilities. And then at the bottom for the Masters, we have a name change from Improved Alacrity to Soothing Alacrity, as well as an icon change. Taking the original Time Catches Up icon and putting it on Soothing Alacrity. This is the same for the first part. Alacrity applied to you is stronger, but has a reduced duration. Applying Alacrity to an ally heals them. Allies can only be affected once per interval. I really like the idea of Alacrity and the time idea being a bit more reinforced with support and healing. This would be very similar, where you are getting 50% increased recharge. The duration reduction would be 35% less, and the ally heal would be a single packet of a heal on a 1 second interval. So you couldn't just theoretically spam 5 packets of quickness within a 1 second cooldown and get 5 packets of healing. This would be a little bit more spaced out, but ever so, I think this would probably be a little bit more to the theme of the Alacrity healer rather than the crit damage being on this. Now let's get into the Grandmasters. I really appreciate these Grandmasters, and I am going to start with Lost Time. Once again, that bruisery idea, that tank idea, and I'm pulling from Lost Time's original form when it was in the betas and early release. So we have Lost Time. Disabling or critically striking a foe grants you a stack of Lost Time. Upon reaching maximum stacks, your next Shatter skill will deal extra damage and slow your foe. Defiance damage you deal is increased, baseline. I really liked the original incarnation of Lost Time, where you gained a buff over your time in combat, and then throughout the fight, you would get a little extra packet of damage and slow application. I've also bumped up the damage passively because it's now not just get 5 stacks of this, your next hit will deal extra damage and slow. This is something a little bit more controlled, where you have to then use a Shatter skill to trigger the trait. Next up is Chrono Phantasma, and for the sake of this rework, I have changed Chrono Phantasma to be a little bit less damage focused, or have a little bit less potential in the damage department. Now, I really think that Elite Specialization number 4 for Mesmer could be a spec that really emphasizes phantasms more than clones, so I have slightly tweaked this. Chrono Phantasm in this rework would play to a little bit more of that group damage reduction and group support and group defense. The first time a Phantasm would become a clone, it instead resummons itself as an Illusionary Avenger. Illusionary Avengers also apply barrier to allies when they strike their target. This Illusionary Avenger is your shield 4. And I really enjoy the Illusionary Avenger because it launches itself, it strikes the target, it applies protection to allies in the area, and then will slow the enemy. I want to maybe buff this Phantasm a little bit, and I think by allowing Chrono Phantasma to allow you to summon multiple Illusionary Avengers with your certain weapons, or if you're taking some utility skills that are Phantasms, I think this would be really fun. And it is a little bit more specific. It wouldn't just be your Phantasm resummons itself and deals less damage with its attack. It would be a little bit more specific. So you wouldn't get a damage reduction on the illusion. You wouldn't get any nerfs to it. And you even get the added benefit of when it strikes the target, it will barrier those in range for almost 1,000 barrier, once again, increasing that survivability on top of that protection. And then finally, I've moved Seize the Moment down at the bottom just to have a little bit more of a through line. We have Seize the Moment. This is where we're really getting into that alacrity and support direct healing generation. You and allies gain alacrity when you shatter your clones on an ally target, specifically an ally target. Applying alacrity also applies a strengthened regeneration. So this is kind of a double-fold trait. To incentivize that direct healing and support and to encourage players to utilize ally target shatters, I'm limiting the alacrity sharing to ally target shatters only. So the alacrity would be bumped up a little bit from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. And additionally, it would also grant regeneration whenever you apply alacrity to a friend. But I've also increased the potency of regeneration by 20%. And yeah, I think overall the traits can be summarized as more of a focus on alacrity, tanking, and improving group support and utility features overall. I think because we have 3 elite specializations currently for Mesmer that are trying to reach that damage, but they're all competing for that one spot. And there isn't really a place for Chrono at the moment, it feels like. Of course, I'm not saying you can't run Chrono, but when you're looking at the rest of the game and its professions, and even within the elite specialization pool for Mesmer, Chronomancer really has fallen short a little bit, and its role is not a standout anymore. Yada, yada, yada. Time heals all wounds. Thank you all so much for coming on by to this very quick rework of Chronomancer and further entertaining the idea of a time-mage healer. This really was just a creative endeavor and really just went off the beaten path, I think, for Chronomancer and focused a little bit more on that role that currently is not available to the Mesmer in terms of a direct healer and a direct supporter. And furthermore, there are a couple traits within Chaos and also Inspiration that I would love to see change, but I digress. Thank you all so much for coming on by. Like the video if you liked it, comment down below your thoughts about what I've presented here as well, or even comment your thoughts on what you would like to see for Chrono, be it you want to see it be a little bit more of that healer, or if you want to see it a pure tank, a pure bruiser. I would love to hear all your comments down below. I love class theory and balance theory and all. Comment, like, and subscribe. If you'd like to purchase Guild Wars 2, I have links down below, and you can also try it free with my links down below. And if you'd like to catch me on Twitch, I'm there every day of the week. So come on by and say hi. Other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah.